What's going on, everybody? Marvel the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. And today, folks, we are looking at Marvel Team Up issue number 3. This issue was published in April of 1972, and the cover date is July of 1972. And we have Spider-Man teaming up once again with the Human Torch, and this time they are going to come up against Morbius. Now, we haven't seen Morbius since Amazing Spider-Man issue number 102. That was his second appearance, by the way, so this makes his third appearance, I believe. And folks, we thought that he had died when he landed into the river. We thought that he drowned. Well, we're going to find out that in fact he didn't drown. And now Spider-Man and the Human Torch are going to be fighting him on a college campus. And so Morbius is out and about. He is seeking revenge. He is out for blood. Um, Literally, I mean, that's how he stays alive because he's a vampire. He has to suck other people's blood. And so Spider Man and the Human Torch are going to be battling a foe that is much more dangerous than any foe that they have come up across in these past two issues. So let's go ahead now and get started. We have once again the return of the Morbius, the vampire, living vampire, and it's going to be a really unique issue. So don't turn away, don't click that X button at all because you're in for an exciting story. So let's go ahead and get started. We recall that he had landed into that river. We thought he had drowned. And we have these two brothers here, Jacob and Jefferson. They are fighting against one another. They are talking about, you know, work and specifically we see here that Jefferson does not like the people that Jacob is hanging around lately. And so they're having all this kind of conversation. He even punches his own brother here and he lands on the ground. And they just both depart being angry at each other. Well, all of a sudden we see Jefferson is looking and he sees a very limp body floating in that river here. And so Jefferson, doing what any man would do, he dives into this river here, saves the life of this man who just so happens to be Morbius. Morbius opens his eyes. He says he is weak, and when the man called Morbius is weak, he must feed. And so here we go, folks. The first victim, Jefferson, is going to be the first victim of Morbius here as Morbius attacks him and sucks his blood. And this is where we're going to now meet Spider-Man, who is not feeling too well for some reason. If this was taking place right now in the 2020s, we could suspect that Spider-Man might have COVID. But no, we just think, well, what we know for certain here in this issue is he might have some flu symptoms going on. There's like a flu virus going around at this time. But let's go ahead and get started with seeing what the heck is happening. Today's title is The Power to Purge. The Power to Purge, and this issue is also brought to you by Jerry Conway, who wrote this issue. We have Ross Andrew on the artwork here, Frank Gishoa on the inking, and Artie Simek on the lettering page. So Spider-Man swinging throughout the city. We see those little asterisks here, or those indicate that he's not feeling well. And he begins to fall, and he just so happens to catch a hold of that ledge here. But then Spider-Man's like, oh man, hang in there, fella. Get yourself together. The world's still a little shaky. Must have caught myself a bit of that flu virus going around. Yeah, guess that's all. Well, then he starts to black out here, and he lands on top of this roof. And that is where we're going to leave the scene for now. Now we're going to change scenes here. We're looking at the Baxter building. The Thing and the Human Torch are arguing over what to watch on TV. The Thing wants to watch All in the Family, which was a TV show back in the 70s. And we see here that the Thing wants to watch it. Well, the Human Torch is going to cut out. He's angry because he's not getting to watch what he wants. Well, they get a ring, and it's looks like you'll have to miss the opening after all, Benji. You can see who's calling up from the lobby. Me, I'm cutting out. So the Thing looks, he's a beautiful lady's waiting for us. Well, if you recall, and if you haven't read Amazing Spider-Man issues 101 and 102, this just so happens to be Michael Morbius's fiance, and she is distraught. She's not feeling well. The reason for this is she knows that her fiance, Michael Morbius, is a living vampire, and she's come to the Fantastic Four for aid here. She tells the Fantastic Four all about Nico, how he had died on that ship back in issue 101 of Amazing Spider-Man, and then how Michael Morbius was dying of an incurable blood disease, and in a desperate gamble, he developed an enzyme which would strengthen his blood count, but unforeseen side effects changed him into a vampire. And so we know that Reed Richards, being a scientist, recalls who Michael Morbius is because Michael Morbius is also a Nobel Prize winner. Human Torch has heard of that name before, and the reason why he's heard of that name is because while teaming up with Spider-Man in the past, Spider-Man mentioned Morbius's name, and Spider-Man told the Human Torch all about that time when he experimented with himself, gained 4 extra arms, and Michael Morbius's bite helped Spider-Man lose those extra arms. That all took place, as I said before, in Amazing Spider-Man issues 101 and 102. Go check those videos out. I covered those issues in detail. But let's go ahead and continue here. We see that the Human Torch now is trying to find Spider-Man. Spider-Man also told the Human Torch that he takes classes at ESU. Well, Michael Morbius is hiding out in this abandoned shack, and we see that Jefferson has been transformed into a vampire here, which is unique here. We thought that once you get bitten by a vampire, we thought that the person instantly dies. Well, things have changed here. Now, if you get bitten by Morbius, it looks like you become a vampire as well. So now Morbius, feeling all remorse here, feeling all guilty, he's like, "Man, I didn't want to change you into a vampire. You're just like myself now." So you have a little bit of Michael Morbius, the man, battling against his other self, which is the vampire. So we know Morbius doesn't want to be a vampire, but he has no choice. If he is going to stay alive, he has to feast on human blood. Well, Spider-Man is now on campus here. He's going to look for Professor Jorgensen here, and he's going to be able to use his lab here without him knowing, so he can check on what the heck is going on. Why is he feeling so distraught? Why is he feeling so sick? Well, before Peter Parker even gets started, he notices that Human Torch is flying in the skylight here. And so Peter's like, "Oh, great. Why did I even tell him that I take classes here?" So he suits back up. And this is going to be a pretty funny scenario here. So here is Professor Jorgensen here, who also knows Michael Morbius. And he's talking about some kind of leukemia being cured here with red blood cell and all this. And then Human Torch cuts in here, flies right into and just disturbs the lecture here. And then Spider-Man is also going to come through the window. And the professor's like, "What is the meaning of this?" And he said, "You two, we will discuss this over tea after the lecture, if you please." So after the lecture takes place, they go back to the professor's little apartment here, where they're going to discuss to the professor and fill him in on Morbius and the fact that Spider-Man thought that Morbius had died. Only one survived, which was Spider-Man. Morbius is dead? No. Well, Morbius is in fact not dead. He is actually on campus here, and he is going to have this guy as his next victim here. He bites him because he's feeling weak again. They hear the cry of this person on campus. Spider-Man and Human Torch are then going to jump into action here because they suspect that that cry has to come from one of Morbius's victims. It also alerts people on campus here, one of them being Jacob here, who his brother had become a vampire. Spider-Man and Human Torch catch Morbius in the act here, and Spider-Man is then going to pummel into Morbius here, one punch after the other. Human Torch has to pull Spider-Man back before Spider-Man absolutely kills Morbius here. And Morbius is like, of course I killed the man. He says that I need power, I need strength, and the human race means nothing to me. Well, the Human Torch then uses his light here to distract Morbius. Spider-Man then tries to web up Morbius, but the light is blinding Spider-Man as well. Morbius gets out of the way, but Spider-Man then tackles Morbius once again. I mean, he has Morbius at the throat. We have a college student, Jacob here, pulls Spider-Man off. He's like, "Get off me, kid." Morbius kicks Spider-Man right in the face here. And then here comes Jefferson and that other person that had been bit. And they start throwing trash at the Human Torch. And it extinguishes his flame here. Human Torch is dealing with all these college students while Spider-Man is trying to get back up. And these college students are also getting on Spider-Man. Jacob realizes that Jefferson is working with Morbius here, and we see that Morbius bites Jacob. Jefferson gets mad because he says, "Hey, that's my brother. You can't do that to him." Well, then Morbius hits and kills Jefferson here as his head slams right into that rock here. And so Morbius, feeling guilty for what he has done, leaves the scene here. And that is where we're going to leave off on this issue. We see the death of a college student, Jefferson, here, and Jacob mourning over his brother. And now we have to wonder, where has Morbius gone to? We're going to find all this out coming up next in issue number 4 of Marvel Team Up. I hope you liked this issue. Hope you liked the return of Morbius. And comment down below, what are your predictions on what will happen next? And as always, subscribe if you have not already. And I will see y'all in the next one.